Hi, hello. I'm Amy, and this is basically my what if Oscar and Billy Batson was in the RWBY Justice League movie. Like, this is just a fun thing I decided to do because I enjoy both of their characters. And, like, the premise of the movie is the Justice League character got turned into Kid, shoved into a simulation of the RWBY universe. And I figured, why not shove somebody who's already a kid into that universe? And while Oscar technically did appear in that movie, I just figured, because it's implied in the movie that the simulation of the RWBY universe is made by Watts, I figured it would be a pretty good plan to like stop Ozpin by shoving his current host into a simulation. Some background details that's not going to be brought up in the main portion of the video is that due to DC character has like different characterization over the years, Billy characterization is basically based on the Justice League War movie and his early Rebirth run. Also, it's never confirmed, I guess, as far as I can find, that the shield thing Oscar did as he fall down from Atlas is his semblance, but based on what Ospin said, I'm just gonna make it his semblance for convenience sake. So yeah, that's it. Hope you enjoy. So the scene starts at the Volume 3 train station. Raining and gloomy, and Oscar Pine is in his farm boy outfit struggling to buy a train ticket. Behind him, the world turned blank for a moment, and a cloaked figure stumbled out. But Oscar didn't notice as he tried to buy a ticket with his lean credit card thing, which clearly does not have enough money. He calls out for Ozpin, asking if he's there, and is borderline begging the old wizard to answer him that if he knows on why they are seemingly back in time. The figure, still cloaked, look around in confusion, mumbling something about that this wasn't where he wanted to go before spotting Oscar. He stared for a bit, shrugged, and then approached Oscar. Here, a voice rang out, and a hand reached out from behind Oscar to touch the ticket booth. A few zaps of electricity later, and 2 tickets shot out of the machine. The mysterious person grabbed both of the flying tickets, and it is revealed it is Billy Batson in his teenage form. Unlike the rest of the heroes, who in the movie is like 16, 17-ish, Billy is actually his age, which is a bit younger than Oscar, like around 13, 14. Billy asked if Oscar is from around here, and Oscar very hesitantly said yes. It said, great! Oscar can tell him about, Mistral? Is that like a city or something? They then proceed to hand him the ticket and board the train, while Oscar just froze. He is still running on the time traveling theory, and the appearance of someone who he had never met before kind of caught him off guard. Billy turned around and asked if he's gonna board, because he thinks the train's gonna leave soon. And that question snapped Oscar out of his stupor, and he too rushed to board the train. He asked who Billy is, and Billy said, Shazam. He paused for a moment. Billy waits for lightning and storm, the usual when he said the name, but nothing happened. So he quickly told Oscar he could call him Billy, and that he's new to the world. That particular phrase confused Oscar, and as they enter the train compartment, we can hear Oscar ask, new to this world? Before we cut away to RWBY at Beacon, and the whole scene with Wonder Woman slamming Oscar and Ozpin plays out, where everyone sort of realized something is not right with the world. When we skip back to Billy and Oscar, they are on the train, sitting in their booth, and as a man with a trolley filled with snack passed by, he got to climb at both Billy and Oscar. When the man is out of sight, Billy pulled out 2 packages of cookies that was previously on the trolley and placed them on the table. Oscar questioned if he just steal that. Billy admitted that yeah, because neither of them have money, and he was hungry, and asked if Oscar wants some. And although Oscar is a bit hesitant, he still accepts the cookie. It talks some more, with Billy summarizing what they've been discussing, that Oscar thinks he's from the future, and Billy knows that he's from another world. They are both missing their teammates, and the only one who could have the answer for all of them is also missing. Billy is a question Oscar about what's going on with Ozpin. Is it like possession or something? How exactly does sharing a body with Ozpin works? He's also a little bit concerned, seemingly studying Oscar when he asks the things, because when one of your enemy is a warn with mind control ability, you kind of learn to pick up the tab for mind control. Oscar said that no, it's more like reincarnation. As he's not exactly possessing him, it's more like they're sharing a body, and slowly their soul is turning into one. Billy is clearly modified by that admission, saying that kind of partial reincarnation doesn't sound good, and if there's any way to stop it. Oscar replied that it's complicated, and that to explain everything fully would take longer than a train ride. Billy could see that Oscar is not comfortable with that, so he changed the subject, asking how is a military school they're going to help them. Oscar explained that Haven isn't exactly a military school that while yes, it does train people to fight, this isn't there to conscript them into the military. Graduate students mostly go into contract work protecting residents of town or cities, or commission work as huntsmen or huntresses clearing out herd of Grimm in the outland, or so he was told. And as he said all of these things, the poster advertising Haven Academy in Volume 3 glitches into reality behind them. But speaking of Grimm, Billy brought up that Oscar didn't really explain what they are, and right at that moment, a Sping ran right at the train, shattering the glass. The compartment they were in once resembled the train that Oscar took to Mistral, now turned to look like the one that the RWBY took to Argus, with the outside starting to snow and the plains turned to mountains, and Oscar reached for his cane while Billy just very confused, pulling out his own weapon, which is a knife. As the Sphinx could be seen flying toward the compartment, ready to ram it again, Oscar is preparing to use his shield semblance. He judged that although the compartment is empty, they can't ran out of it in time, so he just decided to take the hit head on. Behind him, Billy just frowned as his hand holding the knife. Electricity began to crackle around his hand, and as this giant Sphinx got closer and closer, stopped in his track by a giant beam of lightning. The lightning is super effective against the Sphinx, killing it and leaving behind glitches mixed it with black smoke. As the lightning died down, we follow it to its origin, to a panting Billy. The knife had now extended into a spear. Electricity still lingered around his hand, and Oscar is looking at him in shock. That was magic, a power that Oscar is very, very familiar with between Ozpin and Salem. Billy admits that usually he had these kind of spells down pat, but his control has been messy ever since he got dropped in Remnant. All talk is put aside when both of them notice a herd of Manticore and Razorwings has appeared and replaced the Sphinx in attacking the train. Both of them make it on top of the train, with Billy stabbing his knife onto the train to pull himself up before pulling Oscar up. They figured it would be easier to fight the Grimm up here, and if not, Oscar suggests grimly, pun not intended, that they could lure the Grimm to the last compartment, which only carried luggage, and cut off the rest of the train. The plan was made really easy when it's become clear that the Grimm is only targeting the boys and none of the passenger. In terms of fighting, I would say that Oscar is the most skilled fighter. Although Billy is a superhero, he doesn't have any formal training, and what feat he could perform as Shazam is mostly because of the wisdom of Solomon, which he doesn't have right now. Oscar fights with precise movement with his cane, while Billy just swung around his knife wildly, with the occasional lightning being thrown in there, albeit weaker than the one he shot at the Sphinx. Their teamwork is very minimal, with both being new to each other and they just doing their own thing as they jump from compartment to compartment as they reach the end of the train. Oscar gets to show his power when Billy, struggling to extend his knife, got caught off guard by a manticore and would have taken a pretty big hit by one of them when Oscar blocks the claw in the nick of time and push it back with a green barrier. Billy, who now finally got his spear to work, stabbed the manticore. The two of them got closer together as they make it down the train. Their plan to cut off the train got set in motion, albeit unintentionally, with Billy trying to call on more of his magic, only to overdo it and unleashing a tornado, icicle rain, and wild lightning, with also a smidge of the world glitching around him as he does so. Oscar nearly got flung away by it had it not been a well-timed shield dome. The plan worked in the end, with the rest of the Grimm circling in on them and leaving the rest of the train. The bad news is, despite the storm that Billy just unleashed, more Grimm had crawled up the train track. Oscar aura broke a little bit into the fight, and he contemplated nuking the Grimm with magic. With long memory in his hand starting to glow, Oscar was about to yell at Billy to get away so that he doesn't get caught in the crossfire, when there was a hint of something up from above heading toward them. That thing turns out to be Yang, who basically tanked her fall with her semblance before releasing the damage out and clear the area of all Grimm. She is followed by Wonder Woman and Blake and the Bullhead. They saw the mini storm and had decided to stop by to investigate. Yang greeted Oscar with a hug, very happy to see Oscar, the actual Oscar, while Billy went up to greet Wonder Woman. Note here that neither of them refer to each other by their real name. In fact, none of the leakers refer to Billy by his real name, with the exception of Cyborg and Batman. Oscar expressed how glad he is to see Yang and Blake again, although he's very confused about what is happening. The older teenagers also admit that they also don't know what's going on, said that they're on their way to pick up Whites at Atlas and then regrouping at Beacon. Yang asked if Ozpin is there, but Oscar just shook his head. He said that Ozpin is here, that Oscar could feel him at the back of his mind, but it was like something was blocking their connection. Billy suggests that maybe whoever got them here did it. He mentioned that it wouldn't be hard for a particularly skilled sidekick or magic user to do so. Offhandedly, he names Black Adam and Mr. Mime as particular suspect, since transforming him into a kid is a tactic they like to use, but wave it off when he remembers that Wonder Woman is here with him and usually they only targets Shazam. Wonder Woman then questioned why Shazam in particular is so much younger than the rest of the League. Then he just shrugged and said that chronologically he came into this world 14 years ago despite his usual form. He then immediately changed the focus by excitingly showing her his new weapon as they walked towards the Bullhead and accidentally shot out a beam of lightning from the sky. On the way at Atlas, we have a little scene of Billy taking a seat by Oscar while Diana hang out with Blake and Yang. Billy said that it's a shame they couldn't see Mistral. It sounded wonderful from what Oscar has described to him, and asked if Oscar is from Mistral. Oscar said that he's been in the city before, but no. He's from a small farming village, describing it as peaceful with Grimm barely attacking, and even when they do, even a humble farmer could deal with them easily. He launched into a story about the first time Oscar saw Grimm. He was so scared, but his aunt just casually picked up a shovel, and a few good bats later, the thing was smoke and dust. He laughed, saying that he thought his aunt was some kind of superhero for months, until he himself killed one and realized really quickly that his aunt wasn't particularly strong, the Grimm was just weak. He still thinks she's the coolest thing though, and Billy asks how is she? Here Oscar takes on a more somber expression. He admits that he doesn't know, that he left home without telling her. At the time, he thought it was the right thing to do. Ozpin was needed somewhere far away. They both were needed to stop Salem and keep the relic safe. Billy had no idea what Oscar was saying, but sort of get the vibe that Salem is Oscar's version of Black Adam, so he nodded along. He said it must have been hard for Oscar, waking up one day having so much responsibility putting on his shoulder all of a sudden, and to leave his family behind. Oscar admitted, to be honest, he was excited to leave. He knew he didn't want to be a farmhand for the rest of his life, and Ozpin's arrival, limiting options or not, did give him an opportunity to be more than a farmhand. He thought that it would be like an adventure as all of those books he had read. He didn't realize how much more than that until much, much later. Billy laughs at that and said, yeah, he understands. When he was first granted his power, he was so excited to explore them, he forgot why he was granted them in the first place. That he had a responsibility. His smiles turned to a wince, but it doesn't stay that way for long. Billy asked about how long does Oscar have until he completely merged with the old man as his head, and Oscar said he didn't know. Apparently, so he was told, the merging time isn't very consistent. What he does know is every time Oscar used Ozpin magic, the process speed up. Hearing this, Billy paused, seemingly thinking about something over, before taking Oscar's hand. Billy's eyes glow gold, and he said, I open my heart to you, Oscar Pine. Magic flowed into Oscar, but he could tell it doesn't cling to his soul the way Ozpin magic does. Testing out his new power, Oscar holds up his palm, and a ball of bright light appeared within it, glowing green. Billy said that, as stated before, Billy doesn't have much control over his magic here, and as seen back at the train, it's more likely he'll be a destructive liability than help, so he decided to share some of it with Oscar. This way, Oscar don't have to choose between using magic, thus speeding up the merging of Ozpin, and defending himself. Well, at least until Billy goes home. The ball of light grew into a wild green fire, and Oscar lose control momentarily, but regain it just as quick. And here, Oscar sheepishly admit that Ozpin's speed teaching him magic was purely theoretical, considering Oscar doodling magic and the soul merge thing. He said that the sharing of power reminded him of a fairy tale he once read, one of many myths on how semblance came to be in Remnant. It was about a boy who found a lake filled with power and decided to share it with his family. And as the scene fades away, we can hear Oscar beginning to tell Billy about the story. The reunion scene at the Schnee Manor stays mostly the same, with Batman very out of character revealing that he wants to stay at Remnant, much to the disbelief of Diana and Billy. Diana reassures Batman that he has his own kind of power, and he does so much good without any of them back on Earth, while Billy is more focused on Batman being so quick to forget Gotham, pointing out with a frown that how does Batman think Robin, Nightwing, and Batgirl will take the news, once the League came to tell them that their mentor essentially abandoned them, and that gave Batman something to think about. The rest of the movie went on like normal, with everyone rushed to regroup when they found out the RWBY Superman group is tackling a Leviathan and a Wyvern amongst the many Grimm. Jessica works through her anxiety and saves her and John from being crushed to death. And when Billy and Oscar join the fight, Billy's entrance is basically him raining down lightning on some Grimm surrounding Cyborg, while Oscar rushed to help Superman defend a prone Nora. Victor then proceeds to trap Billy within his arm, giving him a noogie, shining on him for aiming the lightning so close, while Nora gave Oscar a small hug in the background, along with John and Ren. The Flash's Kilgore reveals happen, and the two boys can be seen dealing with the Grimm in the background. It started off well, with the two of them dealing the Grimm at a comfortable rate. Their teamwork now much better than when they started. Billy now got a grip of his weapon, switching between the knife and the spear form. But as time goes on, they start to get overwhelmed. As the Leviathan drew near with its army of Grimm, Oscar once again contemplated whether or not to nuke everything. This time, Billy is there to help him, with both of the boys holding on to long memory. They unleash an explosion of bright light, nuking a good chunk of the Grimm, but also killing the approaching Leviathan. This then leads to Kilgore being forced out of Flash much quicker than the movie. But Kilgore still went on to possess the Wyvern. However, with so much Grimm destroyed, Kilgore was forced to draw back for a moment, allowing the group to reform and proceed with a new plan. Billy teamed up with Victor. Billy sitting on Victor's drone companion while Victor yeet him at the Grimm. Meanwhile, Oscar is with Ren on a motorcycle. Ren shooting at all the flying Grimm while Oscar whacks any he could reach with his cane as they ride by. Both of them works with the rest of the crew to distract Kilgore before Green Lantern, amplified by John's semblance, could come in and destroy the Wyvern. At the end of the day, Kilgore's poorly thought out plan was thwarted. Batman, Cyborg, and Green Lantern combined their effort for a way home. As the portal opened, Billy bids Oscar one last goodbye, saying that he enjoyed the story Oscar told him, and he'll find a way to come visit Oscar sometime. And who knows, maybe he'll find something about soul separating in his universe. Oscar thanks him for that and said next time, maybe they'll meet under better circumstances, and maybe Oscar will show him around Remnant. And with that, everybody goes home. The crewbie wakes up in the training simulation on the not destroyed Atlas. Don't know where this movie takes place on the timeline. And everybody lives relatively normal lives until the next movie. And yeah. So I decided not to give Billy a semblance. Usually in my RWBY crossover AU thing, which is based more on the comic, where the characters already exist in the RWBY universe, Billy's semblance would have been aura share, where he could just basically share his aura with people that he formed, that he put a mark on or something. But for this what if, since the movie has the character goes into the simulation, I just decided to give Billy magic, because I assume magic would work. I mean, it's not like 100% his full power, but at the same time, it is magic. And from what I can see in the movie, there's no concrete way to say that magic would work, translate as well in the simulation as it. The closest thing I got was with RWBY's Silver Eye, which seems like would have worked if the Grimm were real. So I just based it off that. In the end, it's just a what if, and I very biased towards Billy Batson. If you make it this far into the video, I hope you like it. A like and subscribe would be much appreciated. See you next time. Bye!